Excellent. It is 4 p.m. on Tuesday. This is our very first live show, bringing coaching and the democratization of coaching to a wider audience. And we welcome your participation now in extending this invitation to those you trust, those who are leaders, talented professionals, those in your peer group who are interested in a topic like this, which is really about naming your personal crisis. So I imagine anybody listening in is either going through a personal crisis right now, or maybe is providing team support for a loved one or a friend who's going through a difficult time. I did want to just begin very lightly by asking you to raise your hand or let us know what kind of crises you or those you love and trust are facing. I know that in the last 7 years, the crises that have defined my life have included the death of my father, the death of my mother. We've all gone through global pandemic. We've all experienced now war in Europe, not all of us, but certainly it is a global event, and it's not the only war going on across the globe, or that has been going on for some time. That has caused displacement. We know that climate action isn't fast enough or swift enough to combat the very literal displacement and threat to life and livelihoods for particularly women in marginalized communities. And we know that divorce and high conflict situations, mobbing at work, that racism, sexism, ableism, all different kinds of isms can cause these kinds of opportunities or reasons for meaningful teaming and the ability to name our own personal crisis. So no matter what crisis or challenge that you may be facing, I wanted to give you 5 reasons why naming your personal crisis can really help. It is monstrously different if you are facing a terrible diagnosis versus a high conflict divorce. If you have lost your job or lost your family due to war or conflict or being displaced, these require entirely different teams. And unfortunately, as we've seen in the global pandemic, multiple things can be happening at the same time for people. So we need to name our own crisis just to get square with ourselves, that when we're under so much pressure or stress or strain, that we can have some compassion for ourselves. Because if we don't name our crisis, then especially people who are likely in this group and watching this video, people just like you're talented, you're multifaceted, you're highly educated, you have incredible coping skills. And so we stick up our chin and put up that stiff upper lip, and we stoic our way through, and we charge on, and we've got tremendous bounce back and tremendous resilience. And we wonder why we're so tired at the end of the day, or what is going on for us in our lives that suddenly we're not able to cope or deal with the enormity of the circumstances that we're facing. So naming our own personal crisis, number one, helps us get compassion with ourselves. And when we are teaming with others that we really deeply care about, who are going through something, then naming that can help us have compassion for them as well. So 5 reasons to name your crisis. Number one is pretty obvious, actually, but it's so that you get the help that you require. We don't want these time delays for you to get the help that you need to be caught if you're falling down, so that we don't go into deep depression, so that we don't have to experience the enormity of anxiety and stress and depleted resources, or to have a trauma brain or a re-traumatized brain. So we want you to get caught faster if you find that you are the person who's falling down, or if someone you care about deeply is falling into crisis. That means naming your crisis. It means that you get ready faster, earlier. It means you team for your lawyer if you're going through a conflict that requires a lawyer. It means that you team with your doctors or with your chiropractor or with your massage therapist if you're going through a physical manifestation, even of an emotional challenge. It means that if you're facing a difficult situation at work, that you get coaches or mentors on board on your team so that you are supported, so that you can soundboard those situations, so that you preserve your primary relationships in certain cases with your family and your loved ones, so that you have the professional support, the availability that you might need to give yourself the help and the space that you need. Also, when we name our crisis, as hard as it is to look at it, it means we're not delaying a year before we go and get basic diagnostics done on a critical or life-threatening circumstances. And it means we're not delaying weeks or months for urgent action just to know our own rights when facing a situation that may require legal intervention. So getting the appropriate help you need is a compassionate and emotional exercise, but it also rallies you to realize, hey, this is not normal. This is a bigger situation. This is, in fact, not just a problem. It's a crisis. It requires urgent or concerted or sustained attention on my part. The second reason why we want you to name the crisis that you're in, and again, I encourage you to use and engage with the chat on this thread in the Facebook group. Let us know what kind of crisis you're in. You might also want to raise your hand if you have a specific question, or if you've seen the TED Talk that I did on rowing through personal crisis with your team, rowing through crisis with your team. So the second reason why we want you to name the crisis that you're in is so that you can set boundaries. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. We all have incredible ambition, whether times are good or times are hard. We don't lose sight of our dreams just because we're feeling low or even depressed or anxious. We can definitely lose the motivation and the gumption to go after them when we feel energetic limitations. But absolutely, I know people who achieve in the middle of crisis, who sustain their lives and livelihoods in the middle of trauma. And so setting boundaries, even if it's not an enormous situation that you or your loved one is facing, but setting boundaries to say, hey, I'm going through something. Let's say you're in a conversation with your boss and you want to say, look, I had a medical situation come up. It's going to require my attention between now and approximately February. So I know that I normally like to say yes to those sales trips and to be your first point of contact, but I would really appreciate it if you'd allocate that to someone else on the team just for this short period of time. Or I'm working through an emotional challenge right now. I can see that burnout might be coming for me. So I'd like to catch it earlier, and family, friends, loved ones, beloveds, besties, whoever you are. Yeah, could you cook dinner 3 nights this week? Or I'm going to be meeting with a therapist or a coach or a counselor every Thursday evening. And therefore I need this time, and I could really use your help and support to take over this task or to run this show so that I can focus on myself. So setting boundaries is really important for you to have the space, the mental space, the energetic space, and the right, the permission to grant yourself the permission to go get the treatment, to make the medical appointments, to get time with your lawyer, to sit down and find that job, or to resituate yourself in a new country if you've had to move because of sudden displacement or reasons, to manage overwhelming administrative paperwork when you've lost access to your own papers. All right. Making adaptations is the third reason why. So just to quickly review why we want you to name your personal crisis is: number one, to get the appropriate help that you need. Number two, to set clear boundaries so that you can use that help or create space for your own emotional processing. Number three, it's to make adaptations. I know Denise is my business partner. I'm Michelle Guiliano. We're the co-founders of SALT Consulting and Communications. We're also the co-creators of the Integrity System. And Denise Nickerson, who is our head teacher and trainer in all of our digital and online programs and courses, including the 12-week long Integrity Works program, which is only offered in January and September. So the next one is coming up in January. She likes to use the example of glasses, right? If you're in intense sun and you don't need glasses normally for reading or for distance vision, but you need it just for handling the sun, nobody thinks twice about making such a simple adaptation to protect your eyes, to give yourself the necessary screening and protection for you to be able to drive safely down the road. Likewise, if you do need corrective lenses or contacts, we name that problem. We say, hey, things aren't going so well at school or in work, or I'm getting exhausted at the end of the day and I'm not exactly sure why. So you go to the ophthalmologist, you get that eye doctor involved and enlisted, and you get yourself some glasses. We don't say, for example, gosh, I need glasses, therefore I'm just not going to read again, or I'm going to give up on driving, right? That's unreasonable, irrational, perhaps, not required. So what we want you to do is to make the necessary adaptations in your life to accept and realize that change is coming. Because the faster that you onboard those adaptations, the faster you feel ease, freedom, and peace. All right. The fourth why for naming your personal crisis is really to set appropriate expectations with yourselves and others. These sound a little similar, but they're not really the same. Setting expectations is a communications challenge and opportunity. Setting expectations is really about you being able to say, actually, I only check my email from 6 to 8 a.m., occasionally over lunch if I don't have a lunch meeting, and otherwise after 6 p.m. Otherwise, I'm in my workday. I'm very present with my colleagues and in my work meetings, and I don't check email all the time. So if you need to reach me, WhatsApp is a good way to reach me. If it's really, really urgent and you want to pull me out of a meeting, you may call. Right. That kind of clarity around expectation setting is something that leaders and champions, they just do, because they know that in order to achieve their goals, and in this case, when we're talking about crisis and coming through crisis, by minimizing trauma on your brain, by minimizing damage physically and emotionally to your psyche and your physiology and to your spirit, we know that we may need to budget time for a daytime nap, right? We may need that power nap of 20 minutes, or you may need to just go for a walk midday for an hour in order to have a more performant afternoon with yourself. So setting expectations and being clear with yourself. One of my best friends, she's really good at list building. She's one of the most accomplished people I know, very high up in the sciences. And she leads huge, complex matrix organizations and teams. And she's able to have a to-do list that is 3 items long every single day. And she distills that to-do list the night before with vigor. And she wants to end every single day with a success vibe. So what does she do? She sets her to-do list item to 3 very, very doable things that she's normally got done by about 11 a.m. That means the bulk of her to-dos are done by the morning, her most productive time. And the rest of the day, is allocated for important decision-making and teaming and availability for her trusted peers and partners, and in this case, students. The fifth why we need you to name your personal crisis and why that is good for you, good for others, and good for its responsible action. It's conscious leadership of your own life and awareness of the circumstances that you're facing. It's a reality check with a ton of compassion and heart. That fifth reason why we want you to name your personal crisis is so that you can take appropriate action. And I don't want to make you laugh, right? Because there've already been 5 steps. You're like, Michelle, we've been taking action. You asked me to get some help and structure life so I could get appropriate help. And naming the crisis is really hard. It requires confronting myself and shining that mirror on myself or my loved one and helping them to see that they're really in a hard time. And this is why they're exhausted. This is why they need to recruit new resources. This is why I'm showing up at their doorstep and expressing concern or added hug or bringing a lasagna tray. But that fifth step, taking action, is a freeing step. It's part of a gratitude practice to take a look at our haves and our needs. What do we have? Well, we now have named our crisis. That means we know we're going to be building a team. We know we're going to be getting the necessary resources to give ourselves the help that we need to get through this crisis. We're going to be establishing boundaries so that we have clarity about what we're saying yes to, what we're saying no to, so that we can free ourselves for recovery or clarity or a fight if we have to fight, or a better strategy to flee the scene if we need to flee. So those boundaries, they help us in our primary relationships, right? We're not telling you to cut relationships abruptly with people that you're not sure about. But as you take a look, if you're in a high conflict situation, if you're with toxic individuals, or if you're with people who are setting you up to fail or are shaming and blaming and framing you from left to right, we know that you need to make some adaptations, set those expectations, and take the needed action, that you get the help and that you set yourself free. So a lot of the quotes and phrases that I've mentioned in this come out of psychology, they come out of coaching, they come out of our own bespoke programs and tools in the integrity system and in Integrity Works. But I did want to see if you if you have seen that TEDx talk. I'll make sure to put a link in the comments below, because teaming through personal crisis is something I do want everybody to see, because I think it is a responsible leader act to get yourself out of crisis as fast as possible and to support those that you love. Your light is important. Your flame is bright. Your dreams matter. You matter to the world. You matter to us here in this community. And so we want you to let us know the kinds of crises you're facing. Let us know what kind of action you may be taking in your lives. And if I could give you a next natural step, in addition to taking a look at the guides here in this new group, and we're so happy you're with us, you may go on ahead and I'll find the link, and we want to have you click through the Wheel of Life. The Wheel of Life is a tool that we have publicly available. So this is a link you can share with your friends and family or loved ones or business partners or connections, and they can get a snapshot view over their Wheel of Life. And it's a great way to have a short discussion with someone you care about, or someone that you trust, or a mentor, or a leader in your world, or someone important to you. And it's a great way for you to go look, because a lot of people, they don't think that they're necessarily in a crisis. They've got enormous coping skills. They're highly performing. We work with gifted and talented people, both the gifted and the talent. And that means that neurodiversity can often shelter or shield or suppress certain white hot focus areas of attention, where you may be hugely successful at work, but then wonder why you don't have a primary relationship, or why wealth hasn't managed or to manifest exactly as you'd like. So the Wheel of Life is a great way if you're kind of in a wishy-washy space. You're not really sure that you're experiencing pain. You're not really sure you're experiencing pleasure, right? This is also sort of part of us coming out of this COVID pandemic and out of quarantine and refiguring out how to be with one another in physical and digital spaces. Use the Wheel of Life to get a quick snapshot. It takes about 2 minutes for you to do. It's free, and it's free for anybody you'd like to share it with, so that you can get a snapshot of where it is you might be feeling more joy, more discomfort, more possibility and success, more pain, and maybe stifling even. I don't know what emotional resonance you're going to feel when you go and take a look at the Wheel of Life, but if you feel like sharing your wheel, you may do so in your introductions to this brand new group. We're so happy you're with us. We are welcoming your crisis examples as we go through, or if there's a key area or a key question. I want to thank you for your attention to this talk. And I just want to wish you a wonderful day whenever it is you view this talk. And we'll see you live Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Central Eastern Time here in the group. Take care.